The nonprofit MBA purpose is to provide new business insights and fresh creative ideas for executive directors and their teams that will help them improve their organization. Here is your host, Stephen Halasnik.
Hello, everyone. My name is Stephen Halasnik. I will be your host for today's Nonprofit MBA podcast, as I have been for the last 6 years. For those of you who don't know me, I am the co-founder of Financing Solutions, and for the last 15 years, we have been we're the largest provider of lines of credit for small nonprofits in the United States. It's a great product to have. If you think you're unique in having ups and downs in your cash flow, you're not. It happens to every single, not just a nonprofit, but every single business. So lines of credit are specifically geared for that type of issue. And if you're interested in learning more, please visit our website at nonprofitmbapodcast.com. On this sunny but snowy day, I'm for those of you who don't know this, I'm based out of New Jersey. Our guest today is actually based out of New York City, which is only 50 minutes away from me. I live and do the podcast from the mountain and lake region of New Jersey. It's a beautiful, beautiful area. Most people are like, wow, New Jersey's got lakes and mountains. Yep. And it's a really beautiful area. And I go to New York all the time. So today I'm very excited to be speaking with our guest, Howard Levy from Red Rooster Group, who is a returning guest. He spoke on our podcast once before. And today we're going to be talking about how nonprofits can use AI effectively. And just a little bit of a background on Howard. He, as president of Red Rooster Group, Howard Levy has helped hundreds of nonprofit organizations wake up their brands, raise more money, and reach a higher level of success. He specializes in harnessing behavioral psychology, effective storytelling strategies, and action design principles to motivate people to donate and take action. For the past 2 years, he's been exploring how nonprofits can harness the power of AI, artificial intelligence. He's here to share some of his insights and inspiration about that subject. Howard, welcome back again to the Nonprofit MBA podcast.
Glad to be here, Stephen.
So a great topic. I know you do your own podcast as well. And, once you've done 300 podcasts, and I'm sure you're used to this too, not all subject matters are like interesting, but AI, I think everybody is curious, and I'm sure this is going to get a lot of downloads. So tell us a little bit about, first, let's just do a definition of AI and what is AI?
Yeah, sure. And when you say curious, I think it's between excited about the opportunities and scared as hell about the implications.
Yeah,
that's probably where I'm on a lot of groups, talking to a lot of people, and that's kind of where the mood is. The marketing people are very excited, but it's also like, how do we evolve our business to help our clients and nonprofits? Like, how do we tap into this so that we can do more? We know that businesses have a lot of these AI tools at their disposal, and how do we take advantage of that? So
yeah, and I think at the end of the day too is it's coming. So I mean, it's just coming. It's here. It's coming. There's a lot. Listen, early on in AI, and honestly, I think in our lifetime, Howard, AI is going to be about productivity, right? It's going to be just like when computers first came out, it's going to be, and those who take advantage of that are going to be better organizations because of it. So hopefully we can give some people a little bit more insight as to how they can get more productive using AI. I certainly have noticed it myself. So go on, go in with the definition.
Yeah. But there was an interesting comment I heard. I was like, this is really interesting, that AI is not going to take your job. Someone who knows how to use AI is going to take your job.
There you go. Yeah.
I mean, same thing like you're saying, with when the desktop computers came out, or social media, it's like, it's harnessing those technologies that are at your disposal. So AI, there's different kinds of AI. I'm going to talk about LLMs, large language models, which essentially are programmed to understand human language, interpret and generate information based on the large language model data set. So essentially, ChatGPT and Bard and Gemini and Claude and these other AI tools are scraping the internet, or they're fed, I should say, information from various sources so they could understand what the world is like. They can understand information, and they can understand how humans talk to the world and how to reflect like human language. So they're great tools for there's generative AI, which is what we'll focus on today, which is like generating information, generating content, or generating images. And so we'll talk about their capacity to do that. But there's a lot of other kinds of AI used for other things, like data analytics. And these things have been in use for a long time. I mean, Amazon is one of the pioneers. You see recommended books for you, or Netflix recommended movies, right? Those are all AI, algorithms. They're learning based on data that's fed in, and they're able to interpret that and then, perform some function based on what they're programmed, to do. So when it comes to nonprofits or other organizations, it's like, how do you get donors and how do you target them? How do you understand who a good donor would be based on, different analytics? And then how can you target them appropriately? How can you craft messages that are mapped to those needs? So those are all things that are either in the works or coming. And I think that there's like a gap between what AI tools are available and large companies that have big budgets and big data sets. If you look at large companies, whether Target or American Express, or companies that are scraping millions of data points from various sources, can tell a lot about you or other consumers based on all the data points, and then they can target you based on that information. Hey, hey, Stephen, you bought XYZ, in store, through your credit card, through magazine subscriptions, through donations to nonprofits, through all these different interactions you've had that they're gathering on you, and now they know, what you may like, and they can use that information to target you, and of course sell to other advertisers. So, but nonprofits don't have that capacity yet. A lot of the tools being built, Salesforce or HubSpot, a lot of the donation systems are building in those tools to help you analyze data, but you have to have the data. If you have a small, many organizations, they don't have a lot of donors and they don't have a lot of information on them. They know maybe their donor history, but they don't really have a lot of other kinds of information about them, about their preferences, and their interests outside of the nonprofit. So, how do you use that? So how to use AI to target them effectively and create more effective messages that are going to resonate and drive them to donate. So I've been exploring that, how to do that. And it's not easy when you don't have the information, but there are ways to do that. And so that's what we'll be talking about a little bit today.
Yeah, and Howard, what I'd really like to do for our listeners too, and I think the key with AI is to stay away from the technical aspect of it and just think of the application end of it. And I think a lot of times you either can think of the application itself that you want to automate, and I'm going to give you an example. And start in that direction, or hear stories of what other people are using AI for. Because just think of AI as an application. They're thinking of it, a technology, let's say that. Just like when we were all started using CRM, customer relationship management, right? It was, that was like, okay, we have all these things and maybe an Excel spreadsheet or hard copy and files. How can we get better, quicker access to that? And someone said, hey, there's this thing called, CRM, customer relationship management software. And then, ACT came out, or Goldmine came out, and those were just the precursors. So what I hope to do today is, Howard, is for you to give us an idea of what nonprofits, the application really is. And, that would be some good insight as well. Is that possible?
I'm not sure I understand your question. We use ChatGPT a lot, the paid subscription, but the free one does work as well. So I was going to talk about how you can use chat to do different things. Like, for example, a common use for nonprofits is writing a fundraising letter, right? And so you can just ask it, hey, write a fundraising letter for me, and you'll get a fundraising letter that's kind of generic. It's based on all the templates that it scrapes and says, here's what a good fundraising letter should be, but doesn't have any further insight about your organization.
Yeah.
It actually does know what your organization does, but
Yeah.
it doesn't have any further specificity. And so I was going to talk about how to elicit better responses from that, just as like one narrow, example.
That's an application, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. Like I'll give you one that I haven't done yet. I'm about to do it. These podcasts that we do, after we're finished with them, they get written up into a 1,500 word article, and then that gets posted to the website. And I have somebody who does that for me, someone who writes it up and posts it. And so there is an AI application out there. It's not ChatGPT. I don't have the name of it in front of me. Luckily, my son's girlfriend is in AI. That's what she does for a living. And so she told me the application. I told her what I was trying to do. And I said, I want ChatGPT to take my podcast and write up a 1,500 word summary of it with paragraphs and topic sentences and topic titles and stuff like that. And I know it's going to be able to do it. I haven't gotten around to kind of doing it yet, and that will allow me to replace the writer I have. That person doesn't work for me. That's a contractor, but so that's an application, right? And with the ease of doing that, I might do more podcasts because it's easy to do the back end. And doing that writing is actually very expensive. So, so that's the application. Yeah. And I didn't think about AI. I thought about, hey, how can I eliminate this writer who's costing me X amount of money and get faster productivity out of this, And
I'll give you an example of that. I mean, there are applications like Fathom and others that can record online conversations. I have it integrated with Zoom, as many people do. These days, you go into a Zoom room and you see other Fathom note takers coming in. There's other companies that do this kind of AI recording as well. And so what they'll do is they'll record the whole meeting. They'll give you a summary of it with the key points broken out, and they'll give you the full transcript. So what you can do is you can copy and paste the whole transcript. I did this the other day, actually. Paste it into chat and say, write an article out of this. In fact, I had a 30-minute conversation with someone, and I asked it to write 3 different articles based on that conversation. I gave some parameters, but it gave nice articles. Now, of course, you want to edit them. You want to check that what it's saying is reflective of what the person said, is accurate, and all that kind of stuff. But within minutes now, you have content to work with, as opposed to the other way, either hiring someone or going through yourself and writing.
Yeah.
Stuff. So those tools are out there and available already. And that's what I'm talking about, like people using that stuff. So you want to be taking advantage of all those kinds of things to speed up your workflow, produce more, and I'll talk about how to be more effective. So it's not just about like producing more, but it's about those things being more effective. So, like, for example, with a fundraising letter, it's not just like writing the letter, but it's how do you connect with your audience more? How do you make it resonate? Anyone could just write a fundraising letter, and most of the time it's from the organizational perspective. And that's what ChatGPT usually does. Here's all the great things we do. If you ask it, write a fundraising letter for the XYZ organization, it's going to go find the XYZ organization's website. So it's going to scan that and know what the organization does. We're a dog rescue. So it's going to say, help save more dogs. And it's going to, here's what we're doing this year, our initiative, and here's how you could help save more dogs and donate to us. It's going to be kind of formulaic. But that doesn't resonate with specifically the mindset of the donor and how they see their dog, right, or that whole issue in general. So you want to kind of flip the paradigm and have the tool help you be more constructive in seeing things from the audience perspective. So I'll talk to you. Let's get into that.
Yeah, please.
So the first thing to do is to understand how to use the tool, and to think of the tool as your collaborator, not necessarily as a slave. And I kind of think we sometimes see that, slave, do this, and then you get something back, right? And then you're like, thank you for that. I will use it or not use it. But when you see it as a collaborator, two things happen. One is that it becomes a back and forth process where you're not just asking it for something, but you're responding. It's responding to you. You're responding back. It's responding to you. And so you're helping to refine the response, that you get, and then it will be better. And you do that through a series of prompts, and I'll kind of take you through that. And now here's something very interesting. There was a research paper study that said when you ask ChatGPT to do something, and when you tell it that there is a lot writing on this assignment, that this is very important, that spend time to get it right. Time meaning very relative, because it's like literally seconds to do things. It actually will generate a better response. It might take another couple seconds or minute, to do it, but it will be better response. So thinking about it as a collaborative partner rather than just a function of performing a task will actually help you to get some better results, and it'll help you to think more strategically about it as well. So for example, you can ask for some contextual information, like help me to understand this issue, help me understand how people think about this. So before diving in, you're trying to set the stage, and there's several different levels of setting that stage that will help you to get a better result. So first is kind of understanding the issue, asking like, what are ways to approach this? Don't just ask it to do something, or don't even make an assumption about that, but you can ask it for different kinds of approaches to a problem. And then you can choose from those different problems, and you can ask like, how did you come up with that? Right? Why did you come up with that? What evidence do you have for that approach? So you can start to understand the thinking that goes into it. So you're going to get smarter because now you're using it as a strategic partner to understand how to approach a problem, not just to get a result, not just to get a fundraising letter, but to understand how to frame an issue. What are the key issues surrounding, my cause? How to frame those things now for the audience, and asking it for, as a collaborator, how it came up with those, so you can trace the thinking there. And it's interesting to see, what it might say. You could even, in asking what its sources are, if it doesn't provide them. Now ChatGPT 4 does provide sources. And you can say, is there anything else that I haven't asked that would be valuable to know? So not like making the assumption that actually it knows everything, or that's reflecting all that knowledge, or that everything, but having that dialogue helps you to progress further than you would if you were just to treat it as a slave and like assign it a task.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like hearing what you're saying, John. Not John. I'm sorry, Howard. I have a call coming from this guy, John. Sorry, Howard. Well, the first thing I would say is, and I don't mean to insult anybody by saying this, which is always a scary thing to say, but you always know how smart somebody is by the questions they ask, not by what they tell you. It's their curious mind,
right?
And so by hearing you say what you're telling me now, my mind is already starting to say, oh, I just need to think of creative questions and let my mind go and just wander about, well, why is this happening and how does it happen and what makes it happen? So, I'll God, I can, well, it's funny because as you were talking, I Googled, because you made me think of something, and I typed in Google and I just said, tell me about the different types of AI tools that are available. Because everybody thinks, we've all heard about ChatGPT, right? Not everybody, but a lot of people have, right? But what I didn't know, my son's girlfriend told me, was how many different types of AI tools there are. And when I typed it in, it came up with 30 different types of AI tools. And now I'll kind of go through, not well, I'm on this podcast, but now I'll go through each one of these and say, oh, this one specializes in this type of function, and this like one specializes in video editing.
There's all kinds of, I mean, there's hundreds of different applications for these. Video, audio, creating avatar, video games, predictive analysis, so understanding how your donors, how much they'll give. It's interesting. Some donor software now, they're incorporating this. So instead of just having a generic donation page that has 5 different options, $25, $50, $100, well, maybe the donor could give $1,000. So if you just start asking for the $50, you're underplaying that. So use predictive analysis based on different things: your ISP, what location you're in, and the home values, in that geography. Maybe your past giving history, how people like you, so forth, and it'll present you with different options that are tailored, to you. So that kind of predictive analysis. There's so many different ways that AI could be used. Yeah, they were talking about the narrow idea of generative, of creating content, and even within then, like you're saying, there's language, there's still images, there's animated images, there's video, audio, composite of these different kinds of things, gaming, all kinds of things, and they're getting much more sophisticated. Where I use Midjourney a lot for creating images. There's new apps that now create based on a specific visual style that you can upload, and then it will create imagery all based, in that same style. It's now embedded into programs like Adobe Suite, Photoshop, and Illustrator. You can generate images right within there, or free or more public access tools like Canva. So it's out there. It's been integrated into all these things, and it's learning how to use them in a way that helps to not just generate stuff for you, but help you to be a better strategic marketer and fundraiser and thinker by asking it and prompting these questions.
So I was trying to think of the 3 areas, the 3 most important areas that a nonprofit functions in. I don't think it's the right way to put it. That you would then go out and do some research and see how AI could help you in an area. One of you already mentioned, which is fundraising, right? So, give me some examples of questions that run through your mind right now that you would ask AI to help educate you on, not to produce any results yet, but to help educate. Tell me something that you think you would ask AI.
Yeah, sure. Well, the other day I was doing some work with an organization on job training in Northern California. So I asked it to provide a analysis of the landscape of that issue. So I said, perform a competitive analysis of that issue, break it down by different types of entities that provide job training, understand the demographics of who's looking for a job, find reports and information, that studies that have been conducted in that area that, define that, analyze the different offerings, relative to each other. So there's nonprofits, businesses offering courses. There's training education from educational organizations, and other entities. So there was, other questions there, and it generated a great landscape review for me. So you could be educated, really quickly. Then you can say, what are the issues that are kind of most resonant to this organization, that we're working with. So now you're starting to use the intelligence that you've gathered to be more specific about how that could be applied. What are some of the issues and how are they framed? And how could we understand, how they could be used, for this organization? Give me 3 strategies, give me some profiles of donors that might appeal, that find this organization, this cause, appealing. Help define some strategies, for reaching, those constituents. So you're using it as a collaborative tool to help you accomplish an objective. So you've learned about a landscape, you could get insight about the audience. Oh, I want to talk to you a little more about the insight about the audience, because I've been trying to do this more, because these organizations are smaller, don't have like huge databases where, like I mentioned earlier, American Express and Target, they have millions of data points so they could see their buying patterns and so forth. These small nonprofits, don't have that. So how do they harness AI to do that outside of their database? Well, you can ask it for information about people who might care about your cause. So, have there been any studies done, on the issue of, workforce, development, or homelessness, or on environmental, issue, or whatever your issue is, and you can see what studies have been done. Then you can ask it to quickly summarize those studies, and give a perspective, and ask about the relative importance and of those things. So you could very easily, you could sit for a matter of 15 minutes. You could even spend an hour, and you could learn so much by asking it questions. And if you could find studies that have verbatim, that are surveys or verbatim responses about your issue from your constituents, you can then start to go into a deeper level we'll call emotionally intelligent writing, to reflect the sentiment, the understanding, the values and the motivations and the drivers of your audience based on their responses to surveys or focus groups or any other data that you could find out there that AI could help you find. And then you can say, what are the emotions connected with that? How are they feeling about this issue? Are they excited? Are they pushing back because this stuff's happening in my backyard? Are they thrilled about what's happening? Are they scared about, what's going on? So your fundraising letter then is going to be very different, right? Because now you have this insight that's the landscape of what's going on and how they're thinking about the issue, all the other competitors that are out there, and not just from the focal point of your organization. You can understand how donors think about the issue, the other options they have, and you can use AI then to write a fundraising letter based on this information, based on this understanding, and then continually use prompts to refine that. Find evidence, find stories. Do we have stories in our database that exemplify, this idea of self-sufficiency, making, our way out, or, fighting the establishment, or whatever the larger themes are that you've just uncovered.
Howard,
So,
what happens, what used to happen when you would ask those questions in a Google search engine versus the results that you're getting from an AI tool?
well, Google search, you're just getting a list of websites.
Yeah.
Now they've incorporated
The AI.
the AI, which is a summary. So that's
Mm-hmm.
closer to what Chat is doing, is kind of aggregating and synthesizing this information in the ideal world with all truthful information and reflecting that. So when you ask about something factual, what is the cause of this or the disease, or something that has a factual basis, hopefully you're getting that. You should always check. But it's more of an analytical. So first, at the base level, it's just synthesizing lots of information for you. So you're not looking through all these websites to find the answer to to my problem, or the question that I have. But as I've been suggesting, it's really more a strategic tool. You can use it in a more strategic tool by prompting it through these different questions to ask the why, not just the what information, and continually kind of dig deeper and create more relevance for your particular use case.
The other question I wanted to ask you is, you were using ChatGPT when you were doing some of this research?
Yeah. There's Jasper. There's other that's I've been on lots of webinars about that. I haven't actually opened the account to do that yet, but that's very powerful because you can upload or create brand databases for your clients, in it. So you can upload and input your mission and your vision and your messages and your brand voice and your strategic plan, and all the things that inform how you want to talk about your organization. So now when you ask it a question, it's informed by that. It's going to use the language that you use. It's going to use the tonality. It's going to have the focus on the priorities, and all those things. And you're not starting from scratch each time to prompt it to say, here's all those things as the context, for it. So I know people are using that very successfully.
Have you seen something that's been on my mind, and that was, have you seen any of the nonprofits that you've worked with? Have you seen any of them taking their raw data that they have in their fundraising accounting software or QuickBooks or whatever they're using, feed it into into an AI tool, and ask Google, ask AI if there's anything that stands out to them?
You could do that. The issue with that is privacy. So anything that you put in is in the public
Ah,
domain. It's feeding the algorithm,
yeah.
and it's out there. So
Can
you
you
have
tell them not to do that?
no. If I mean, and this is where the investment in your own chatbot, or LLM model, comes into play. Smaller organizations can't do it, but the large ones are doing that so that they can do that. You're a
Mm.
large company, you got thousands or tens of thousands of employees, and you want them to be effectively using AI with your information, that your organization is captured, and don't want to put it out there. So you create your own chat GPT, basically,
Yeah,
is what
yeah.
that is. So yeah, unfortunately there's these like limitations, that you hit against on like what you can what you want to divulge, and put in versus what you want to get out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, what other, I know one of your areas is kind of fundraising. That's your specialty. Is that accurate to say? That's kind of
Yes.
been your. What other applications have you seen in regards to specifically nonprofits and fundraising that
Well, like
AI
planning.
has?
Yeah, AI could be a really good tool for nonprofits, just even in planning and thinking out, what does our overall year look like? What does the calendar look like? What are the strategic issues that we could be addressing? I mean, to go back to that example earlier of looking at the organization, um, helping to get strategic knowledge about how people see the organization, and that could help you to figure out how to present your cause over time. Say we do 2 campaigns a year, a spring campaign and a year-end campaign. Let's use the tool to be strategic in thinking about what are the campaigns that we could do for each of those. What are the themes and the messages, that might resonate at different times of the year, with those audiences? What other things are happening, at that time? So things like using it as a strategic tool, using it for planning. I was using it today actually for a communication tool. There was an organization that had to communicate to its donors about something that had happened. And they so I ask it for some advice, on how to go about doing that. So as a strategic partner, you could ask it a lot of information and just
Mm.
see it as an ally that's going to help fuel your thinking. And I think
Yeah,
nonprofits could really tap into that.
it's kind of a stupid question, but I remember when I was first using ChatGPT, and again, my use of it is limited. I did get on it pretty early, and I recognized how much better it was than the search engines that were out there. And I still use the app on my phone for that sometimes instead of search engines. But I guess I heard it from somebody, and now you know I think like it was coming back with like 500 words whenever I asked it something. And then I went back and I said, give me 2,000 words on this subject. And then it came back with 2,000 words, which was much better. Um, does it, again, this is not such a big deal question, but does it always default to the same amount of characters, or can you always ask for it for more?
Oh yeah, you could define what you ask for.
Yeah.
And the good so the field that's emerging is called prompt engineering, which is understanding how to frame questions,
Oh.
which it ironically at some point will be ameliorated because the language models just get better at understanding regular language, so you won't have to kind of learn. It's kind of the code, as it
Yeah,
were.
yeah, yeah.
It's not really code, but it's just so for example, what you want to do is first define the role. So say ChatGPT, imagine that you are the executive director of this organization, right? As opposed to just write a fundraising letter on behalf of. So define the role that it's coming from. Maybe it's coming from development director, maybe it's coming from someone else, or maybe it's from you as the development director. Help me fundraise, let's collaborate. So tell it that, let's collaborate together on this. But define, if you're asking it to write a piece, so even like a blog post, if you can define who it's coming from and who the audience is, you'll have a better success. And if you could, within the other context, could be the length, it could be the tone, it could be the objective. Help me, as head of a financial planning firm, writing a blog, that's weekly to an audience of of nonprofits that are this this size, that have this assumptions about finances, or their key problem is XYZ. This blog is intended to help alleviate their concerns or their emotional constraints, feelings, or specific financial things. Write a blog post based on this content. So you're starting to define who it's coming from, who the audience is, what you want the audience to come away with, kind of the parameters, like the blog post, where it's going to be posted. And you could ask it, because they make it a list of 10 items, numbered items, and it will do that. You can say write 5 paragraphs. So you can define all those things, and that's all. The initial prompt should set up as much as you possibly can to help it get the best result.
So we have a minute left in today's podcast, and Howard, you've been looking at AI for 2 years now, 2+ years, and I think it's obvious to everyone who's listening to you that you're much more advanced with AI. You probably don't realize it, but you're much more advanced than many of me or our listeners are. So you've been on this path, right? And let's assume that a lot of our listeners are in the beginning stages of just getting around to using AI, and maybe this is the first time they've really started listening to it, because they're like, I don't want to be passed, or there's an opportunity here. If you look at your path, tell me over the last 2 years where you started, and like how you built up this knowledge base that you now are having from AI, if you understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah. So from total fear and trepidation to a level of comfort, thrill, and still a lot of trepidation. That's natural. Change is natural. These things are hard to, adapt to. And the larger specter of evilness, kind of, of the implication on society, kind of, hangs over this, I think, in some way. And if you're working within an organization, you probably have issues, like I'm saying, on privacy and ethics and what could we do and so forth. Don't let that hamper you. Jump in, have a whether it's chat or another free app open, and look to it every day. Ask it some questions. What should I, how should I handle this problem? How could I approach this thing? Anything that you're sitting down to do, ask it for some help. It doesn't mean that you're going to use it, you're going to use the final result, but start to think about how you can interact with it. I did that. I mean, it was a combination of using these tools, going on some webinars. I'm in a marketing groups that talk about it. I joined. There was a subcommittee on AI. Sure, let me get involved in that, and then watching videos and reading about it. Just trying to educate myself. Look, it's so evolving so fast. There's new tools coming out every day. It feels so overwhelming. I drop stuff into a sheet. I'm like, how am I ever going to keep up with this stuff? I'm like, so it's just about like, take a breath, just focus on your one area, see what you could do to get some incremental improvement. You'll be happy about that.
I do the same thing. Like when I remember going to like the library or a bookstore and I see all the books. I'm like, oh my God, this is so overwhelming. How, and then you kind of narrow it down and say, okay, let me start here. Let me start in this subject area. That's what interests me. And so just so our listeners know, I mean, after listening to Howard, I wrote down that I'm going to spend 3 hours just poking around with it a little bit more and trying to, for me, I'm going to try to automate that, the podcast write-ups and see how I can do that, because if I can do that, I can do more podcasts and stuff like that.
And there's specific apps for podcasts I think that
Yeah.
automate that process. So
Yeah. Do you
now
know what
it's
they
going
are?
to be where I don't know.
Oh.
If I can look up my list, I'll see
Well,
if I
I'll
can.
look it up. Well, I know you mentioned
Um,
Fathom before, so I'll look it up. Or I could just ask again my girlfriend, my wife,
Type
my
it in.
son's
Ask
girlfriend.
ChatGPT to
Yeah,
identify.
That's what I was thinking
These
too.
things.
Um,
But just
so
start small. Just anyone. My advice is just start small. Don't get overwhelmed. Just do just do some things with it and see how it goes.
yeah, and I think for me, my advice too, from limited that I've done, and I think is, look at this as how helping you be more productive instead of something bigger than that. How can I make I think when you like some of the things I've heard that people are using AI for, is really time saving. A lot of time saving stuff. And hey, who doesn't want more time? So
Exactly.
I think that's kind of the key thing. So that's all time we have for today. I'd like to thank so very much Howard Levy from Red Rooster Group for coming on today's podcast. And if you like today's podcast, please feel free to share it with a friend, and also subscribe on your favorite podcasting app. And if you like today's podcast or any of the other ones, please give us a 5-star review. It really helps us get the word out. And if you're looking for a line of credit for your organization, please visit our website at nonprofitmbapodcast.com. And Howard, if you could tell us, please, how to get a hold of you, and also what else how you can help our listeners.
Yeah, thank you. You can find us at redroostergroup.com. It's our website. See all about us. You could find me on LinkedIn, Howard Adam Levy, on LinkedIn, or Red Rooster Group on LinkedIn. We're starting a newsletter that's going to be full of AI tools. So it's actually a great opportunity to stay up to date with what's happening in a little drip format, so you're not overwhelmed. So subscribe to the LinkedIn newsletter. And you can reach me at howard@redroostergroup.com. I'd be glad to chat with you about how you can use the tools and evolve yourself and organization.
Right. And your area of also in general expertise is fundraising, is like coming up with fundraising strategies and those type of things.
It's fundraising, yes, fundraising, the strategies and the campaigns, writing, designing, producing the campaigns, and overall marketing and strategic advice for organizations to help get to the next level. It's what really all about, taking small, medium organizations and helping them to see where the real opportunities are in their sector and to grow to the next level of success.
Great. Thanks for coming on today.
Thanks, Stephen.
Like I always say at the end of my podcast, this is a brand new year. It's January as the recording of this podcast. So we were all coming out of the new year and coming into the new year. And I just want to remind everybody that, this industry of being an executive director or an officer at a nonprofit can burn a lot of people out. And that, you're no value to your friends, your family, your employees, and your cause if you burn out. So every day you really need to look at yourself and say, what do I need to do today outside of my job to keep myself happy and to really reduce the amount of burnout potential that does happen in this industry, because there's a lot of problems in this world. And we really need you. And you guys are out there every single day. And I know Howard and I both thank you for that. And we need you to keep at it, because there's problems and there's got to be solutions for them too. So just keep that in mind every single day. Other than that, I want to thank you for listening to the Nonprofit MBA podcast, and have a fantastic, great 2025.